What's up, boys? The pigs are back for another episode of the Blind Pig Podcast, courtesy of bgobsession.com. Take a few minutes, catch us on all the major socials. If you don't want to watch us, I would not blame you. You can listen to us, which might not be very much better, or on all major audio podcasting platforms. But if you do want to watch along, cheers to you. Come over to youtube.com, give us a like, a subscribe, hook it up, and a share. Fellas...
We should rename this Four Faces for Radio.
Four Faces for Radio.
Come on, we could do Right Said Fred.
Three Faces for Radio.
Team. Too sexy for my team. You know.
Have you seen some of the other Washington podcasts, guys?
Yes, I have.
We're in the top 10%. I'm telling you right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's all relative.
Top 10% of what is the
hey, calm down. Don't take away our glory by putting statistics in it, Bob. Come on.
Got it. Fair. Okay, go for it. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Before we do truly get rolling, I will say John likes us to call out every time we get on here. Ton of contests going on. Survivor pool is up and running. Fantasy football, I think, is like end of day today. If you don't declare, he's gonna we'll kind of isolate and figure out who the two leagues are gonna be, because we do have enough for two. Unless you want to do like a 24 team PPR league, which would just be brutal. The crystal ball pool that our brother Paul, Canadian Hog, puts on is live. People are already doing that, and in our board pick'em that's hosted through the site. That is the one contest that we actually do interactively through bgobsession.com. So very easy.
Al Galdi was giving us a little promo for the NFL Pick'em contest on his podcast this morning. So if it's good enough for Al Galdi, it's good enough for the rest.
It's good enough for us. Absolutely. So we had a football game on Friday. I would argue it was our JV team, but we don't have to get into semantics there. I do think a lot of that was that we had the joint practice with Miami. So Quinn and company decided that a lot of the starters did not need to see the field. I think I can say that in this podcast, we'll probably argue both sides of that with the amount of injuries we've got going on mixed with wanting guys to get field reps. So before we get into the training camp part of things, what did you guys see Friday night? Did anything jump off the page at you? Good, bad, indifferent?
So the start of the game, I was almost, for a first preseason game, getting ready to be upset, because they'd set me up listening to the inter-squad practice where we were so sharp and we were so perfect and we were so great. And even though it was 2s versus 1s, I expected us to look better than making the Dolphins Malik looking like a Pro Bowl quarterback. And so there was this part of me that was like, oh no, have we been lied to? Are things not going to work once we're in a real game situation? And then luckily there was no game chat. The rest of the game happened.
There was a game chat. I was by myself in the game chat. I don't know. If you go pull it up right now on the site, I had about 14 posts and nobody else responding to me.
For the record, Derek can have a conversation with himself.
He absolutely can.
He's good at it.
But, I thought almost every player after those first two drives had a moment where they shined. It felt it was a fun game to watch. I thought players did better than I thought they would, and players I didn't expect to do well actually did pretty well.
Yeah, I kind of, first of all, preseason, it's like, it doesn't mean anything, but then again, maybe it does, but except when it doesn't. You just don't know. There's literally no correlation between how teams do in the preseason. And when we look terrible, everyone says it's a preseason. It doesn't matter. When we look great, everyone says it matters. This is so I don't believe it really matters. But I guess a couple just quick drive-bys. I think our backup quarterback got hit by a stiff breeze. I'm just worried in general about Mariota because even when he's come in, he's done a great job. He's probably one of the best backups in the league. I think we would all agree on that. But I don't know if we have to count on him for more than 15 minutes. I just don't know if he's going to be able to stand up to the punishment. So that worries me. I know we're going to talk about the other quarterbacks in a little bit. I thought the running backs really stood out. I mean, you had Henry, who, hell, I don't think we even have mentioned his name in the entire preseason. He had a 6.3 yards per carry, and I know it was against Miami's scrubs, but he looked pretty electric, just finding the holes he was finding. And, of course, he had a touchdown. And then, the guy that I've been beating the drum for, Katron Allen, wasn't quite as electric, but he still cranked out 85 yards, almost 4 yards a carry, and a touchdown. He looked really good, especially in short yardage. So, and those are our backup running backs. So I felt like that was a strength. I didn't see a lot from the guy. I thought I would see Sonny Styles light somebody up, and I didn't see any of the guys that we're super excited about seeing in the regular season. Like our new wide receiver, our third round wide receiver, and just some of the bigger names. I didn't see a lot from them. Sonny Styles kind of looked like he didn't know what was going on to me. But I mean, it is a preseason, and he is a rookie, so no matter how talented he is. But anyway, I did think there were some good things, and I liked what our third string quarterback did, or I guess fourth string quarterback. I don't know. We can talk about that, but I thought he looked pretty good. AK looked pretty good in the reps that he got. But what do you think, Bob?
All right. I feel like I preface things every single year like this, but I didn't get the game down here, and I haven't gone out of my way to go find the whole game since. I followed kind of the live box score on ESPN for a little while it was going on live, and went, definitely a preseason game, because a defense that had apparently made Miami look like your local JUCO team during workouts this week gave up 90 some odd yards on the opening drive for a score. Yeah. And I always have to remind myself things that don't happen in the preseason. There's no game planning for this particular team. They don't spend hours watching film over what these guys do. The cornerbacks aren't paying attention to the wide receivers. The ends aren't looking at what the offensive tackles like to do, and the offensive tackles aren't looking at what the ends like to do so that they can play one-on-one. The two teams throw guys out there and see what kind of football smarts they've got, is really what this comes down to. And I think in the modern game, it's even worse than that. I think they throw meat out there on the field because they have to, knowing that it's going to take a Herculean effort by somebody whose name none of us knew 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, to make even the practice squad, right? Most of the guys that we're playing are going to be waiting tables in a couple of weeks. And so I guess, I don't know, I guess to a certain degree, I'm a little disillusioned. I have gone back and watched some of the highlights. Granted, these are highlights, so take that for what it's worth. But one of the things that caught my eye is the fact that we've got receivers running open everywhere. I mean, acres of space. And even in the preseason, even showing a vanilla offense, that's got to count for something, right? I'm with John. The running backs look good. I was a little surprised we only used 3 guys, but I guess McNichols is hurt, and
Ford's on IR.
Do what?
Ford's on IR. So
Ford wasn't on IR Friday night. He played. Ford played. He's in the box score.
Was he?
He had 1 carry for 4 yards.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't think he was. Okay.
Henry and Allen are the only other two guys with an actual running back number that played Friday night, right? So Bill didn't, I guess we didn't even dress Bill or White. For what that's worth. John, I was a little. Wait, was it John or was it Andrew? One of you guys said you were a little surprised that Sonny kind of looked the way he looked. That was part of it. I watched the first 3 or 4 plays and went, you know what? I don't want to watch this because I'm going to get bad vibes. And so I jumped to like the middle of the second quarter when they started pulling guys out because Sonny did look a little like that. He did look a little like, actually looked a lot like this is my first time I've been on an NFL field.
Well, he's also playing with a bunch of guys he probably hadn't played with before.
That's another great point, John. But I just pulled my head back into the game and I went, you know what? This guy watches film the way Daniels watches film. He's not going to look like this week 1 because he's going to know what he's looking at. He's going to react accordingly. And that's assuming he starts week 1. We the fans are dying to see him start because he was the number 7 draft pick, but that doesn't mean the coaches are going to throw him out there, play week 1 with a green dot on the back of his helmet. There's no telling where that actually ends. Several guys have worn it in practice, and apparently everybody's looked good with it. So it may or may not be Styles. I'm pleased we won. I believe, like a lot of coaches, that winning is a habit. I believe that Parcells was right when he said, first you win, then you get good. And so I think it's a positive to see the team win, even though I'm old enough to remember the year that we won the Super Bowl after losing all 4 preseason games under Gibbs. Yeah. So take it all for what it's worth, but there you go. I mean, I'm not unhappy this week.
What stood out to you, Derek?
Well, overall, I agree. Styles did not put on film an elite performance, but this is what rookies tend to do when they get in the league. And the first time he's in live game action in a new defense, to your point, wearing the green dot for the first time, I think there was a lot of positives in his game. He did look out of position a couple times. I think he played very well in coverage. There are multiple highlights out there that he looks the part when it comes to being able to manage outside when he is responsible for a receiver out of the backfield or coming off the line of scrimmage. He showed that he can do that. There were a couple of other plays. There was one play that I thought was hilarious, and I don't remember exactly which run it was, but there was a run, and he was kind of in the middle of the field, and I think he just got fed up and just kind of just bench pressed somebody on their ass. He was just, you could tell he was just kind of starting to get into it. As the game went on, if you watch all 22 of it, you can actually see it start to kind of come together. The getting pulled outside and getting play faked one way or the other at the beginning of the game is far more stark than it is towards the end of his game. And that's just going to come in time. He also, so to your point, I just quickly pulled up that we had 26 players inactive for this game. Okay. Obviously, we talked about Terry McLaurin, Stephon Diggs didn't play. Rashad White, McNichols, and Krosky Merritt didn't play. On your D-line alone, no Deron Payne, no Dietrich Wise, no Tim Settle, no Javon Kinlaw, no Charles Omenihu. On your linebackers, no Adafe Owe, no Clavion Chason, no Dorrance Armstrong. That's 3 of your top 4 edge rushers that are not dressed. And no Frankie Louvu, who probably is the guy who's, Sonny Styles' best friend right now in the linebacking core, because that's kind of his comfort blanket. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like knowing and trusting that Louvu's on the field, he's going to be there. So I wonder how much of that is to that point. I don't think any conclusion can be drawn from the game tape we watched. And I really hope people aren't drawing a conclusion or trying to say, well, oh, look at this guy. He's not good at. He ain't even close to what he's going to be as an NFL linebacker.
A couple of negatives and a positive. I think one positive on the defensive side of the ball. We had 3 picks, and I know it's a preseason game, but it's been a long time since we had 3 picks in a game. So that was good to see. That was KO, Quan Martin, and Spencer all had picks. Something I kind of view as a negative is we didn't seem to get much pressure on their quarterback, and they're not exactly a juggernaut as far as protecting the quarterback goes. So we had 1 sack, 2 tackles for a loss, and 4 quarterback hits. I guess that's not god awful, but I kind of, even though we were playing a lot of backups, I thought we would see more pressure than that. And then I'm just going to say it. I don't really want to see Sam Hartman again. If I can, I know I'm going to, and I'm sure he's a great kid by all accounts, but I just don't think. I mean, that guy, he's been a quarterback long enough to know, like, don't throw into double and triple coverage, and he doesn't seem to have good ball control at times. Like, the ball sailed on him on several occasions where guys were wide open, and I don't know, man. It's kind of like I don't really know how he's sticking around. He must be like the greatest team player. I know he's Jaden's buddy and everything, but he must just be a great guy in the locker room because I don't see what, from a football standpoint, like, I don't even think he's got backup potential. I really don't, but maybe I'm being overly harsh. I saw more from Kaliakmanis than I did Sam Hartman. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. So I don't know whether he's going to be on the roster when the dust settles or on the prep, or I just don't know. But
if I can throw a couple positives out there, the offensive line, believe it or not, Brandon Coleman looked the part. He looked what we kind of talked about on this podcast last week as somebody who's going to be an adequate player. There were a couple plays.
Bad team, though. I mean, keep that in mind.
That's what you're supposed to do. I can't, you know what I mean? Like, I get it, but at the same time, you don't want to. He's coming in, and there was a lot of questions. He was not overwhelmed against an NFL defensive line, and doing so with a week and a half of training camp, or however long it's been since Tunsil went down. Mark Bullock and God, no, I can't remember the top of name, but they have their own podcast now. They literally break down all 22. They took 9 minutes talking about a single play with Brandon Coleman, where it was a wide zone right run, and Brandon Coleman had the defensive tackle lined up to his inner shoulder. Well, not even his inner shoulder, the left guard's outer shoulder. So he was clearly inside. And Coleman had the athleticism and length to be able to get over and in front of him and put his ass on the ground to open up a lot. Another name is Golbin. Golbin actually was pulling on the big touchdown by Henry. Again, I get it's not against premium, but that guy wasn't even in the conversation for starting center. I don't think they plan on playing him as starting center. But if he can come in and he can be, again, an offensive lineman who can come in here and develop it, like he showed well for what you would want to see in their first NFL game.
Well, since Allegretti is hurt again,
they pulled him today.
Many on the injury wagon that we talked about last week. Now there's like 10 more guys injured from a week ago. I don't know if they'd ever put a rookie in at center, but it may come to that if things keep going the way they're going.
Well, with Goodjones' inconsistency, supposedly he was spraying snaps in camp during practices. It might not be a bad idea to give the rookie some starter snaps just to see what he would look like, at least in practice.
Yeah. So one thing one bit of news this week, they moved on from Jake Moody and they gave Drew Stevens the kicker job, and I think that's a really good move. Sometimes I think sometimes you kind of give the guy with more experience the benefit of the doubt, but I think Stevens took the job from him. All we've heard through like training camp and pretty much the entire offseason was that he looked really good, and he when there were measurable comparisons, whether it was in the joint practice or the preseason game, he matched them or outkicked them. And I just like Stevens because, first of all, he was a pretty well regarded kicker coming out of Iowa. So and Iowa is not an easy place to kick. It's windy and it's cold as hell, and that's not a kicker's dream location to kick. And he had 12 field goals beyond 50 yards in college, and he was invited to the NFL Combine, which kickers, they don't get invited to the NFL Combine very often. So that kind of tells you. And there were a lot of teams, including teams like the Rams, who were hot and heavy after Stevens. So I don't know how we nabbed him as an undrafted free agent, but we did. I'm kind of surprised he didn't get drafted, but I think he's going to. I mean, knock on wood. We've talked about how we make a choice between kickers. One guy goes off somewhere and thrives, and the guy that we pick struggles. But I feel good about him. I think he's got a really good attitude, and I love to see an undrafted free agent come in and take a job away from a veteran who should be able to keep his job, and he wasn't able to.
And clearly win it. I mean, I showed a video. I shared a clip on the board. One of his kicks was 60, and he doinked it off the crossbar, and it went in. And somebody made the point where they're like, yeah, and well, Tress Way kind of bobbled this. I don't give a shit if it was a perfect snap. If you're going to drop it from 60 and hit the crossbar, it's you know what I mean? Like, that's a positive. The fact that Tress Way got the snap down and he was still able to do it, that's just even more impressive.
It would be nice if we could get a young kicker and he's our kicker for the next.
Be our guy for a while.
Yeah.
I was rooting for Stevens too, but I wrote this on the board this week, and one of the things that actually just really made me happy was that we finally had a competition that was actually a competition.
Yeah.
During the Rivera years, it's like, oh no, this position is in competition with the other. And it was a fait accompli. It was not ever a real competition. I will say this is one of those weird, unusual circumstances where I think Moody, being the experienced vet, worked against him because his reputation, his history is being inconsistent.
Yeah. And
so when he was inconsistent during practices, during the competition, it just sort of reinforced the idea of, oh yeah, this guy does miss. You can't trust him.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because he was so highly touted, and I think he was drafted. I can't remember.
Yeah.
He was a third-round pick.
I was going to say, yeah, he was a third or fourth-round pick. San Francisco, right?
So, yeah, I think you're right about that. He kind of didn't have the career everyone thought he was going to have.
Well, he hasn't to this point, but who knows?
It's true. Now that we've cut him, he's going to, be David Akers.
I mean, I think Moody did a good job for us last season, so I hate that for him. But, again, it was Izzo, I guess, right? Special teams coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not going to go with an undrafted free agent unless he feels like he's clearly the better kicker. So,
I don't know whether Stevens is going to be great or not, but I think he clearly was or has been the better kicker through this preseason. It just felt like even on days when Stevens had a bad day, Moody had a worse day, or a comparably bad day. I mean, there was one day I remember Nikki Javala posting both kickers went 0 for 6 today in practice, and I was like, well, that's exciting. We're going to be working kickers out next week. And then the next day, all Stevens did was come out and go 6 for 6 with like three of them 55 or longer or something. So you brought up Tress Way a second ago. I thought Tress Way had maybe the moment of the night when the fan in the front row stood up and wearing the T-shirt that said Tressway has more passing yards in the NFC Championship game than Dak. As a guy living in Dallas, I can get behind that T-shirt. I may have to go have one of those made. The funny thing is nobody down here knows who Tressway is, so I'd have to explain it, which takes kind of the fun out of it. But
well, technically, every single person on this podcast has as many passing yards and championship games as Dak Prescott, right?
Oh, he
is not superior to any of us.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're right. Wow. I may have to put that on Facebook for all my Dallas friends.
Careful.
Yeah, just to be a contrarian, though, on Stevens, and I'm rooting for him, and he was the one I wanted. The only thing I wasn't able to see, at least in the one preseason game, was how he does on kickoffs. His one kickoff, I think, went into the end zone, which you don't want nowadays. You want it to be just shy of the end zone. So I'm guessing in practice he did that fine, but that's the only aspect of the game that I think we still need to see more of, and hopefully he nails down.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to have his growing pains, and he also missed the initial extra point on one of the touchdowns. But I think on that, maybe like they had blown it dead and in the middle of it, and maybe the snap was not right or something. But I'm sure there's going to be some growing pains there. But yeah,
we'll hate him at least once this season, but hopefully we love him more often.
So we were going to talk about all the injuries, but you know what? To hell with talking about all the injuries, because we have a lot of them. We had a lot of them last week. We got more of them this week. I don't think, other than the Allegretti injury and Amos, I think there's been like more kind of, I think Quinn has been a little bit more negative about when is Amos going to be ready, or is he going to be ready? Other than that, I don't think there's anything like any shockingly terrible injury news. It's just lots of guys dinged up. Is that a fair way to put it, Derek?
I think so.
Yeah, from what I've seen, I think the weird one is Rashad White. I don't know if you guys saw what's circulating the internet now, but 2 days ago, they did an ALS challenge, and he was in slides, and the bucket got dumped on him, and he slipped, and he hasn't practiced since then. Which is kind of weird. So I guess there's some concern there, but nothing's been made of it. Tim Settle, if I'm not mistaken, is dealing with a pec injury, and he's going to be in New York getting a second opinion, which is never good for a guy that's whole life is. Do I have the name wrong? Do I have the wrong
Newton.
player?
It was Newton.
Johnny Newton. Sorry.
Yeah,
Newton is in New York getting a second, but a pec for a defensive tackle is never good. That guy's you got to be able to bench press a Volkswagen playing defensive tackle. So if your pec is jacked up, I mean, it's not good. But other than that, I think there is kind of the belief that some of these guys are going to be able to come back pretty quickly. Mariota is the name that is probably the most concerning if you want to talk about impact on the team. And that's weird, being your second quarterback, but we all know that chances are you're going to see him at some point. I think I saw that they're hopeful he'll be back. It's strained ligament in his knee. It is not a tear from what I've seen. So there's a lot of names of guys that are dinged up. Knock on wood. I mean, some of the freak things that are going on in the league right now are crazy. I don't know if you guys saw the news on Biotish, but his left guard literally body slammed a defensive end into the back of his leg. And I think they fear he's now torn his ACL and he's probably done for the year.
Yeah, saw that today.
There's a couple other non-contact injuries like Breece Hall. Jackson Dart, I don't know if you guys saw what happened to him this weekend when he was on like his fifth snap. He drops back and he just took a cornerback's helmet to his chest. So, and then 2 days later, they signed a different running back who completely whiffed on the block on the safety blitz. So there's a lot of injuries going on. It's not just us.
Well, I think we can forever, I'm not going to ever allow conversation on the board about on BGO about like, hey, the reason we have so many injuries is because we're
Because I
bubble
started
wrapping
an injury thread.
It's like, okay, so here's what we figured out. We're going to have a shit ton of injuries if we bubble wrap guys, and then we're going to have a shit ton of injuries if we don't bubble wrap guys. It doesn't matter. It's like it's what Washington does. Is I don't know. We can I guess we can fire the strength and conditioning staff again. We can rebuild the gym again. I don't think there's any. I think it's just bad luck, and we seem to have more of it. But maybe I only focus on our team. Maybe it's just as bad everywhere. But it does seem like every single year, really 2024, that was like the only season I can remember in recent memory where we just didn't have a shit ton of injuries across the board. And look at what we did in 2024. But anyway, I hope it's just a lot of little things. And of course, we've already forgotten that we lost our left tackle for the season. So that is enough of a hit for any NFL team to have to absorb. So I just hope we don't have any other major ones, knock on wood.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Bob. I see.
I was just going to say, I think we've reached a point in athletic development where this is what we're going to see. We're pushing the absolute edges of what the human body is capable of doing. When you look at NFL players and NBA players and professional soccer players, we all spent hours in front of the TV watching the World Cup this summer. You look at these guys, there's an ongoing debate, and I guess it probably happens in the NFL too, although I don't hear it as much. There's an ongoing debate in soccer about, well, if we took this, soccer was better in the 80s, the players were better, but those guys weren't the athletes. Well, no, but you know what? They were all alcoholics, and they all smoked at halftime. I'm not kidding, right? And I mean, it's documented. A lot of them, played hungover, not uncommon. They didn't have the strength and conditioning. They didn't have the year-round training programs. They didn't have the nutritionists.
I was about to say they didn't have private chefs.
Private chefs. Yeah, they didn't have the nth degree of development that players in the sport now have, and NFL teams have the same thing. I remember when the Hogs used to get jobs in the off season because they didn't make enough money to play football in the fall and then work out in the spring. They were all on construction sites or selling cars or doing something, and they
also weighed 275 and they were 30 pounds bigger than the guy they were blocking.
But they showed up to training camp and had to get into shape. NFL players today show up to training camp in shape. They work out on vacation. They go places that have gyms. They run. They have 4, 5, 6 day a week workout programs that they follow throughout the entirety of the off season because they are quite literally a professional athlete. And I think we're pushing the bounds of what the human body can stand. And then you put these guys out on a field and ask them to run headlong into each other. And I think it's amazing we aren't seeing more injuries than we're seeing if you really want to know the truth. But that's just really me.
That's a good point, Bob. And one thing that I think not every fan appreciates, and I'll just tell a quick story. I got to cover the Redskins on the sidelines for several years, and until you're on that sideline and you can, and I'm not a big guy, I'm 5'9", 175 pounds, whatever, but I felt like the tiniest human on the planet standing on those sidelines. And I actually got to experience an NFL hit because I was standing behind the fourth down marker, and Washington opted to go for it. And Mark Brunell threw a pass, and I have a great shot of Santana Moss looking back over his shoulder and Mark Brunell and the ball mid-pass. And then the next thing I know, guys are telling me I can't be behind the bench because the sideline judge stepped to the side, and the Oakland Raiders safety who was chasing Santana Moss hit me, gave me a forearm shiver to the forehead. My recorder, I had a little recorder on a lanyard. It was like 50 yards away from me, broken. And I'm like literally over by the bench, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing over here?" You know. And I mean, the only thought I had was, well, other than, my God, man, how do these guys take hits like that? But my only thought was, I hope to God that wasn't on the TV.
I hope my wife didn't see that.
They love to show the crowd like, oh, look at this photographer getting, taken out, or the assistant coach getting taken out. But anyway, thankfully, my kids thought it was cool, but it really made me appreciate, like what you were saying, Bob. These guys are not human, man.
No.
They are massive, and they're fast, and they're so strong. And I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they take the punishment they take. So anyway, sorry for that segue, but.
And for people out there that say continuously, the preseason is scrubs, even the scrubs are in superhuman condition. It just doesn't. So yeah, I'm sorry, Andrew. You started to say something.
Oh, I was just remembering a quote. I can't remember if it was Jeff Bostic or Russ Grimm. You were talking about the Hogs earlier, and one of them was, some reporter was asking about the shape they're in, and the guy was like, "Well, it's important for us to be in the shape we're in because Flab doesn't sprain." And I think that indirectly talks to what you guys are talking about. They were cushioned, and there actually are studies that do show that if you have less body fat, if you have more muscle, it is actually easier to injure yourself because your body has less cushioning, it has less give.
Well, and I was going to mention, a lot of the injuries that we're now seeing more and more of are the soft tissue and ligament injuries. Because, and John, you come from a medical background, you can only strengthen a ligament so much before the muscles that you have built up around it put too much pressure on it. I mean, these guys are.
I don't think when players were smaller and they weren't as physically fit as Bob was alluding to, I don't think you saw nearly as many joints being forced in the wrong direction.
Right.
Because how many injuries have we seen where literally guys, like we saw it last year with Jaden. You saw his elbow go bend in the wrong direction. And you don't, I mean, that can happen in kind of freak circumstances, but you see it a lot now where guys get hit and the bones you cannot strengthen bones and ligaments to withstand the kind
what they're doing. Right. And
so,
I think that is a lot of it. And that's why a lot of the time you see the report and they're like non-contact injury, and you immediately go to the worst case scenario because chances are that guy just blew a ligament or he tore his Achilles or whatever it is. And chances are that's because that guy's been working his ass off for how long? And then now he's in a game situation and he is putting more torque on that body. With the adrenaline that's going, with the anxiety that's going on right now, with the guy that's like, I got to make a play. And if I don't make a play, I've got to push myself harder than I've ever pushed myself. Your body can only withstand so much. I mean, it is a literal car accident every time these guys run into each other. And the scary thing is, to your point, Bobbit, they're not getting hurt in those car accidents. The injuries we're seeing are like Larry Tunsil, where he did not slam into Odafe Owe. He just moved his big ass body in a certain way that it couldn't withstand the pressure that it was in, the force that it was put under. And it something's got to give, man. Like, what does that say? Immovable object meet unstoppable force. Like, something's gonna have to give. So, one other, to your point also, John, and I do look, could we fire the, sure, but here's what I know that I'm not happy, but happy to knock on wood and say, you look at some of the other ways that some of these guys have been mishandled beyond just being hurt, like Ricky Pearsall. You can't tell me, like, this kid tore his MCL at the beginning of last season, and they opted to not do surgery, to rehab, go through all of that, and then like a week into training camp, now he's got severe swelling, and now they have to do surgery, and he just signed himself up for like a 9 to 12 month recovery. So you look at, and I'm not bringing his name up because of what we used to talk about, but you look at guys like Brandon Ayuk who are screaming about the way that the training staff is handling him. So I don't know that I can hold our training staff responsible for it. Just to reiterate your point, because there are other training staffs that are mismanaging and mishandling and looking at doing things that you look at them and say, well, that sucks, and that bit you in the ass, didn't it?
Yeah.
So to your point, Derek, what scares me about the Allegretti injury is that this happened on the very first day he was allowed back into practice.
Mm-hmm.
What gives me confidence about the Allegretti injury, and we don't know what it is yet, is this team is so cautious about any tweak in any poll and any injury that I can imagine that he felt almost nothing, and they're like, okay, you're done. We're not taking a risk. So it may not be a big deal.
He's been one of the most durable offensive linemen we've had, I mean, that's a crazy thing about it. And of course, you take a chance, you let Biotic go, and then you plug Allegretti in there. And now, of course, the guy who's been durable as hell has barely
but
been
it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder is if there was a regular season game or a playoff game, would he be in a position he's good to go? Like he would be playing.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's
maybe.
the question.
I mean, but the other thing is we don't hear shit about what's going on. Like we have no earthly idea. The only reason we know about Newton is because he's in New York getting another, like we have no idea. They are holding everything so close to the vest right now. They are not communicating anything that they don't have to communicate.
They clearly don't care what fans want because they pretty much did exactly in this preseason game what they did last year when they took so much heat for, not playing people. They ignored all that criticism and they did the same damn thing, which is hold out almost every starter. So, and I'm okay with that. It's like, you know what? I mean, you think it's bad now, get another one or two starters like lost for the season in a freaking preseason game, and see how that goes for you. So I'm okay with them. I don't want to use the term bubble wrapping because I think that's kind of a stupid way to put it, but I'm okay with them not putting guys
erring on the side of caution.
I mean, and maybe there's a downside to that, but there's a downside to putting people out there as well. And
I do. You kind of fired up a little thought here. Like, I'll make the argument. Reps matter. I have always made that argument, and I agree. Reps do matter, but like, let's be honest. Does a rep matter for Rashad White? Does a rep really matter for Daron Payne? I mean, I'm almost at the point now where does that rep in the preseason game matter for Jaden? Now, I understand new offense and those things, but he's also been playing football for since he was 5 years old. Like the guy knows how to get up for a game. So I would still say I would probably like to see him in this coming game. I would like to see the offense, but that's selfishly as a fan. I want to see the offense perform, and I want to see them do, kind of put something on film to show me that I can be confident in week one. But I don't know. Like I start to wonder, is it to your point, is it worth it? I don't know.
I think reps matter more for quarterbacks and receivers. And I don't care whether you're a running back catching the ball out of the backfield, a wide receiver playing in the slot or out wide, or a tight end coming off the line. I think reps matter more for that group of players than anybody else in preseason. I don't think, to your point, Derek, I don't think it matters for Daron Payne. We're not playing a schemed defense at that point in time. So Payne's not reacting to what the guys around him. He's not getting used to what the guy next to him is going to do, because the guy next to him isn't going to be doing the same thing week one that he's doing right now. The guys behind him aren't. I think maybe it's important. The reps are important for Sonny Styles because game speed matters. It's different at this level than it is in college. And Sonny needs to see the legit stuff prior to week one so that he doesn't come out week one and look like an amateur in the ring with Mike Tyson. Right. And that's what would happen if you held him out all preseason and his first look at game speed
is against the Eagles.
The NFL was against the Eagles. Yeah. He might never be the same player again.
Well,
he might
news,
the
good news in the preseason is there are two guys on this team that needed the game reps, and their names are Durante Jones and David Blau. Those are the two guys that needed the game reps more than anybody else, and they're getting the game reps no matter who's out there playing. They're calling the plays, they're adjusting, they're making sure we're not getting delay penalties left and right. That we have the right number of people on the field, that guys are doing what they're supposed to do. So, I mean, I think that's the positive, no matter if we play starters or we don't play another starter.
And that's fair, John. In fact, that may be the point of the segment right there.
So we were going to talk about, been trying to pick a rookie every week, really to help familiarize ourselves with them, because we haven't really talked about them since the draft. And tonight we were going to talk about his college nickname was the Greek Rifle, but someone on BGO, I wish I knew who it was, but somebody on BGO came up with a better nickname, Greeced Lightning.
Athan Kaliakmanis. That is a hell of a name right there.
Yeah, AK. I noticed that Quinn's already calling him AK.
Oh yeah, I would too. Kaliakmanis, 6'2", 216. Started Minnesota, went to Rutgers. 22 years old, turns 23 tomorrow. Happy birthday, AK. 7th round pick, 223rd overall. He went 7th in the 7th round. In college, he played in 48 games, over 1,100 pass attempts, which is a decent number of pass attempts.
8,600 career passing yards, 55 touchdowns, 27 interceptions.
And now, not the greatest completion percentage at 56.3, but you start to question who he's throwing the ball to at Rutgers and at Minnesota. And I mean, Minnesota, you're playing in and Rutgers, you're playing in pretty rough weather.
He also got better every year. Like his 2025 season, he was 62% pass completion. So he got better every year. I think one of the knocks on him is that he doesn't have like elite arm strength. I don't know, man. His arm looks pretty strong to me, but I mean, we have only seen him, in one preseason game. But I think that was kind of the knock on him in college, is that he was a little bit like questionable pocket awareness. Sometimes stared down receivers, but mostly it was the arm strength wasn't like if you read a lot of draft profiles, they talk about that he floats deep balls a little bit. But again, he's a 2-time team captain, got better every season. And the pro comparison that I saw on multiple sites was Kyle Allen. If you remember Kyle Allen, who actually I thought played pretty well for us.
He did
in his brief stint here, but I
don't
think
he got his leg snapped in half. Yeah,
I'd be pretty happy if he was a Kyle Allen type backup quarterback.
I thought he did actually so much better than I thought he would do. His passes were on time. They were sharp. The few times he had to sort of move in the pocket and scramble, you could see the lack of speed, the lack of wiggle. So he's more of a old-fashioned drop-back quarterback, is my guess. He's also the guy who, I'll be honest, every draft there's one guy I'm like, what? Who? and
Yeah.
he was the guy. Now, he was also a 7th rounder, so I'm not going to complain about a 7th rounder. But since we had so few picks, I was like, wait, why are we getting this guy who doesn't seem to be amazing? So I was really pleased with what we saw with him in the Dolphins game.
I guess the thing that jumped out at me watching him is he clearly is not like intimidated. You could tell he was in command of the huddle. He was talking to guys, moving people around. He did not look like gun shy or hesitant at all. And like I said, I was kind of pleasantly surprised with the zip he had on the ball. So, I mean, I thought he looked pretty good for his first, live reps under the lights or whatever.
Yeah, I think I saw enough. Oh, I shouldn't say enough, but the other thing is that he was up against kind of that stark epitome, to your point of what you made earlier, of what we're kind of not wanting to see continue, and that's Hartman. Hartman was hit or miss. Hartman floated. Hartman showed why he is not a starting quarterback. And
I don't think he's
AK came in. Right, but AK came in, and it was almost like the offense, or at least you even felt better with what we were seeing on the field with the guy who was a 7th round rookie pick than a guy that's been on our roster for 3 seasons. So, I'm not trying to shit on Hartman. I think he made he made a handful of good throws when he had the ability to anticipate, and then he made about every 3rd or 4th throw you'd look at it and say, well, that's why you aren't starting. And
Hartman was under 50% completions for 80 yards, and AK was 6 for 10 for 87 yards. So, I mean,
right. But that's what I mean is he came in on the heels of that, where you're watching this inconsistency and this proof of what is not a starting quarterback, or even you could argue an NFL quarterback. And he came in and he performed better than what would be expected. So I think there's definitely kind of something there that you can utilize and you can develop. I don't think anybody's making the argument that he's going to be some kind of a game changer. Jaden's our quarterback. I think the anticipation is but if he can be here for the tenure of his rookie deal and maybe sign another deal and continue, or turn into something that you can turn into a 4th or 5th round pick on draft night or something like that. I mean, that's a positive, but I think he's got a place in the NFL, at least for the short term.
Yeah. I wonder if there's any chance at all of them moving on from Hartman. If let's just say that for the last 2 preseason games that Athan looks really strong and Hartman continues to look like Hartman. I wonder if there's any chance they'd release Hartman and keep AK on put him on the practice squad or something.
I think there's a very real chance.
Yeah, I can't imagine them keeping 4. And I don't see Mariota being on PUP or IR, given what they're saying.
Well, I think you also use a 7th round pick on him. Why does Hartman have the shorter path, being a 7th round pick that's now 3 years old?
Hartman was an undrafted free agent.
Or undrafted free agent, right? So I don't think that there's any reason to believe that AK has actually probably the better chance at making the roster than Hartman. And even if that means that you carry AK, he's your 3rd quarterback, he's inactive, but he's your emergency quarterback, and Hartman rides the practice squad if you want to keep that guy in the building for whatever reason that they've wanted to do it. But because I don't think you have to worry about someone snatching him at this point.
No,
and you got to remember the ultimate condemnation. And if I were Hartman, I would have been so upset. On that last game when Mariota goes down and they're like,
they bring in somebody off the street. Yep.
Yeah, let's bring someone off the street in a completely losing season where there's absolutely nothing to play for, and not give our 3rd string rookie a chance, or 3rd string quarterback a chance.
Andrew's making a great point. I in all honesty, I thought we were done with Hartman at that point. I didn't expect to see him in training camp this summer. I expected to see Daniels, Mariota, somebody we drafted, and then some journeyman. that just continuously makes the rounds, vying for, a position or just here to fill out a roster spot for the time being, right? I'm surprised they brought Hartman back, and I think AK has. I dare say he's got the inside track. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see more of Kim the rest of the way than we do Hartman.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to, see what he can do. I mean, honestly, we're auditioning for the clipboard role, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. So we don't want either AK Kaliakmanis or Hartman to see the field. That would be a tough year.
Well, and I'm not, believe me, this will sound like hyperbole, but, there's a guy in San Fran that was also a 7th rounder named Brock Purdy, who everyone was wrong about. So, and he had the same kind of evaluations that AK had on his draft profiles, doesn't have a strong arm, doesn't have NFL status, all the same shit. And he's done pretty well for himself. So I'm not saying, I'm not saying anything other than that.
And that's fair.
And in our own history, we did pretty well with Gus Frerotte until he decided to headbutt that
I like Gus.
post. Man. He was a good quarterback until he gave himself a concussion.
Sorry, boys. Some just came across the wire 16 minutes ago. Johnny Newton underwent surgery for a torn pectoral muscle.
Yep.
No timetable shared. Expected to miss significant time. So he is going. He's going to be IR'd. He's probably not coming back from that.
And that's one of those injuries. If you remember, Landry had, I think, a torn pec, it's like an Achilles injury. Once you tear that pec, sometimes it's guys re-injure it. It's
not crap. Left guard before Cosme, Brandon.
Sure.
Didn't Scherf have? Didn't
Scherf? I think
Scherf had. And I think he had. To John's point, I think it happened more than once. And once it happened, then it was like, it's like heat stroke. Once you go down, you're significantly more susceptible.
Yeah. Well, like Derek said, that's like the blocking muscle. I mean, you can't. It's tough to play football if if you've got a torn pectoral muscle.
Just to pivot and not to, to make it sound a little positivity though, the guy they signed off the street, if I'm not mistaken, actually had a pretty good game. And which was kind of surprising. And they signed another defensive tackle, if I'm not mistaken. But one of those guys, the interception that Medrano had later in the game, was a direct effect from that guy getting interior pressure and being in the quarterback's face. So, and now I can't even remember his name. I'm over here trying to update BGO while we're talking, just to put was
it something like Cardell or
some? I can't remember now.
Another guy I just wanted to mention I thought looked really good in that Miami preseason game was the rookie we talked about last week, which was Joshua Josephs. Looked pretty good.
Yeah.
So that was good to see.
Now I got to pull it up. It's going to bug me.
Yeah. And it was also nice to see Yankoff snag a few, because every so often we would hear about these guys who were doing great in practice and it would not show up in the preseason game or it would not show up in the regular season game. So the fact that it's translating for Yankoff is a good sign for him.
Well, we got another preseason game on Saturday, I believe at noonish.
Yeah.
This will be a little bit better competition.
Chris Barnes is the name I was thinking. Chris Barnes. No, he's a linebacker. Mo Hurst. We signed Maurice Hurst. But that's not the one I'm thinking of. Sorry.
All right, dude. It's okay, man.
I do like the progression, though. I mean, going from Miami to Detroit to the Ravens, it feels like each test is a little bit harder. So that might, in some sense, be good for our coordinators. Although who knows what the Ravens are, because they've got new coaching staff themselves.
Byron Cowart is the name. Cowart. I was not gonna give up on that. Yeah, and I do wonder also with the game coming up, are we going to see more, maybe not starters, but more that higher depth chart, because there was not the live practice against inter-squad to kind of gauge those guys? Or are they going to look for reps in that and not be able to use that as their excuse for game situation? I'm not holding my breath, but I'm maybe.
I think that as injuries mount, I mean, that's a second person we've lost for the season, and we haven't even had a meaningful snap yet. So I think they're going to be very hesitant to put starters out there. I don't care.
As a last thought, I want to see starters. I do think that there is mental atrophy, and you got to get used to the speed. You got to get used to the other processing the way things go. But I can see what you're saying, John. I would not be surprised at all if they did not play anyone.
Well, obviously we're not going to make predictions on a preseason game. It's been not the most enjoyable conversation, but I think there were some things to be positive about. And the other thing to be positive about is that the team came out and showed out when it was supposed to show out against an inferior team, and we did it with nobody that was even expected to be on the field week one, at least not in any real contributing role outside of guys like Styles and maybe Henry, who, by the way, might sneak his way onto this team as a special teamer, because he was actually back for punt and kickoff, and if they could opt to take an extra running back instead of a wide receiver, so that could be an interesting kind of camp competition that's not really a head-to-head. So game was on Saturday at noontime, like John said. If you've made it this long, we love you, and we owe you a drink or something. So thank you. Come by, join bgobsession.com. Totally free. Get on the contest, have some fun. And with that, boys, the pigs are out.